Ganon doesn't appear in Phantom Hourglass, outside of the opening, which recaps the Wind Waker. It is mentioned that his evil influence spread across the sea after his defeat, giving him an influence from beyond death. He does appear in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. He actually has a sizable role in the Subspace Emissary story mode. He appears to be in charge of the villainous forces. Though he feigns loyalty to Master Hand, he secretly plots to overthrow him when the time is right. He is responsible for some of the story's darkest moments, such as when he sets the Robs to self-destruct. He is overmatched by the game's true villain, Taboo, but Link and Zelda will put aside their feud with him and allow him to help in the final battle. In the actual game, unfortunately, while there is an effort to make him more like his canon self, such as his final smash that allows him to turn into Ganon, he's still inhibited by being a heavier Captain Falcon. Some moves are changed to reflect his character better, but he's one of the worst characters in the game due to his low speed. Once again, he's absent from Spirit Tracks, even though Malice may as well have been him, and not much would have changed in my opinion. And he's not present in Skyward Sword, which is due to the fact that this is meant to be a prequel to all prior games, and Ocarina of Time was the first time that Link and Ganon fought, so it wouldn't make sense. But they did say there would be reasons given for why he showed up. At the end of the game, Link battles Demise, much like how Link would fight Ganondorf hundreds of years later. After Demise is defeated, he puts a curse on Link and Zelda's bloodline. So Ganon showing up later on is due to Demise's curse, and this, I'm not the biggest fan of. Mostly for how it seems to have impacted his later games. It's like, Ganon is the main villain of the series, and now he's just part of someone else's curse. Ganon would finally make his return just 2 years later in 2013's A Link Between Worlds, where reviving him is Yuga's goal, and in stark contrast to how it usually goes, where Ganon is revived, he just kind of floats there and lets Yuga absorb him. Now, I'm going to assume this is because Ganon is just mindless and thus doesn't have any say. Otherwise, he'd just swat Yuga aside and take over as the bad guy. So for the rest of the game, it's Yuga Ganon. So I'm not sure how to count this. Is this a good twist or disrespectful to Zelda's main villain? I go back and forth, to be honest. I'm guessing when Yuga was defeated, he and Ganon were separated, since canonically Ganon shows up again in the original Zelda. Ganondorf makes an appearance in Hyrule Warriors, doing his usual thing. Once Sia is dealt with, he takes over as the main villain. Ganondorf's design? What hair! In fact, you actually play as Ganondorf as he defeats Link and Zelda and single-handedly conquers Hyrule. But that just sets up the final showdown where Link once again confronts him. In a design evoking his Twilight Princess design, Ganondorf turns into Ganon, but finally, in a rather spectacular clash, he's defeated once again. All in all, a fun what-if crossover that sees Ganondorf just be what he is, a cunning, intelligent sorcerer. He once again appeared in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and for 3DS, and he's largely unchanged from the previous Smash. Although an edit to his moveset will finally let him use his sword. Somewhat. Otherwise, there's not much to say about him in this game. I think he's still low tier. In fact, he's damn near the bottom. Please don't make him a Captain Falcon clone anymore. But Ganon would finally make his big return as the big bad in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Known here as Calamity Ganon, Ganon is seen inhabiting Hyrule Castle from the beginning of the game, a primordial evil that has attacked Hyrule for a millennium. Every time you look at Hyrule Castle, you just see this black mass enveloping the castle, reminding you that he's there. Zelda is keeping him contained, but she can only do so much. Ganon in this game is less of a character and more of a force of nature. Each of the bosses in the Divine Beast is a blight of Ganon, essentially a little piece of him that keeps the Divine Beast locked down. The world of Hyrule has fallen into decline, so you feel Ganon's presence as you explore. The world has moved on from its war with Ganon, but the effects are still felt. The events of previous games have largely faded to myth, though Obersa mentions that Ganon was once said to have been a Gerudo. At the end of the game, Link finally confronts Ganon, and we see him hatch from a cocoon into... a hybrid of monsters with a red mane that seems to be the last bit of Ganondorf that remains in Ganon. Calamity Ganon feels like a culmination of the game's mechanics, and you must have mastered them to have a chance. But of course, he's not done.
Ganon was born out of a dark past. He is a pure embodiment of the ancient evil that is reborn time and time again. He has given up on reincarnation and assumed his pure, enraged form. If set free upon our world, the destruction will be unlike anything ever seen before.
The English and Japanese versions differ on if Ganon is trying whether or not to be reincarnated, but unfortunately there's not much to this battle. Just ride around and shoot at the glowing spots. So how is Ganon's beak returned as the main villain in nearly a decade? I wish he was more of a character and not a force of nature, but it worked for this game, I suppose. Ganondorf made his return in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and he's still a heavy Captain Falcon. But he actually uses his sword!
And there was much rejoicing
in his Smash attacks. He's actually back to his Ocarina of Time look, and Ganon from that game is a boss character. And I actually quite enjoyed this fight, as I think it's a wonderful callback to Ocarina of Time's final boss. According to the Tiros, he's still the worst character in the game. Sadly, he might always have to be doomed to stay so. He next appeared in the Cantons of Hyrule spin-off game, a game I have not presently played. But he's depicted once again as the ultimate final boss as you face off against him in a musical contest. I guess the guy's gotta branch out. Ganon got a bit of a return to form in Age of Calamity, the prequel to Breath of the Wild, as he would finally get to flex his villainous muscles and be a bit more active in the plot. And he does get to show a more cunning side. But he still doesn't talk, so it's pretty disappointing. In the end, the result is the same. You fight Calamity Ganon and take him out as always. I did enjoy playing as Ganon, as it was just fun to tear things up. Not much to say about this appearance in all honesty. But after 17 long years, we would finally get Ganondorf to return in all of his glory in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Traveling down to the lower reaches of Hyrule Castle, Link and Zelda find a mummified corpse that steers itself back to life. And he makes quite an impression too, as he shatters the Master Sword. In no time, Ganondorf gets to work, covering the world in malice. When Link goes to the castle after chasing the fake Zelda, he finds Ganondorf waiting for him, but is backed up by the 4 sages.
You do not recognize me. Perhaps there are limits to the knowledge the secret stones impart. You stand before Ganondorf. The foolish actions of your ancestors served only to delay my ascension. Allow me to show you the world that was and will be again when I have been restored.
This Ganondorf was the Demon King from Hyrule's past, and his rise to power is shown in the Dragon's Tears, which seems to be kind of a mix of his Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past backstories. No one should trust this guy. I mean, look at him. He looks evil. Granted, Rauru doesn't trust him, but figures he can keep an eye on him this way. I guess this is the closest we'll get to seeing Ganondorf kill the king in Ocarina of Time, and I admit my jaw dropped when I saw this scene. Of course, we have the moment that made a meme. This Ganondorf might have the highest kill count, even if it's mostly off-screen, but it does serve the purpose of setting up his enmity with Link.
You're wrong. Years from now, someone will appear with the sword that seals the darkness. A swordsman with the power to defeat you, Link. Remember this name.
Link. Interesting. I look forward to meeting you.
This is why Ganondorf seems so disappointed in Link. But after a long and grueling process, finally Link confronts Ganondorf at the bottom of the depths where he resumes his living form.
Regardless, I will reshape this world as it was meant to be. I will crush any opposition. I will rule. That is what a king must do. Do not look away. You witness a king's revival. And the birth of his new world.
What makes this fight so incredible is that you get the sense that Ganondorf is barely trying, but is pleasantly surprised that Link is able to put up a fight.
What a feeling. I'd almost forgotten the thrill of battle. That feeling as blood surges in my veins. And I am not even near the limits of my power.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. I loved this battle, as it got me to stand up and made my hands sweat, and when a game does that, it did a good job. He's the perfect counterpart to Link, just because he fights exactly the same as Link. After beating him, you get the usual villain meltdown.
I will yet rule this land. You will not stop me. I'm the immortal. You will not stand in my way. My body, my mind, everything.
In his final form, he's a demon dragon. Not quite the usual, but I guess it's different. This fight is not very hard, but it's all about the spectacle more than the challenge. But it did make the fight all the more satisfying. All in all, it was a pretty good return for the King of Evil, or Demon King, or whatever his title is now. Of course, you can't keep a good villain down, as Ganon returned a year later in Echoes of Wisdom, and I should warn you, from here to the very end of the video, there will be spoilers for this appearance. At the beginning of the game, it starts the same as always, Link fighting Ganon to rescue Zelda. But this Ganon seems aware of past failures, which is a hint that something's off, as after he's defeated, he opens a rift. In fact, Ganon has seemingly been forgotten as he's just referred to as the Blue Monster. What that means in the grand scheme of things is currently unknown. Zelda fights Ganon again at the halfway point, after which it's revealed that it's not Ganon at all, but Null creating an echo of Ganon. The real Ganon never actually appears in this game. But like I said, you can't keep a good villain down, and whether it be as Ganon or Ganondorf, he's sure to rear his ugly mug again to try to fight Link and Zelda. Oh, I forgot about his appearances in the Zelda CDI games. Let's talk about that.
You dare bring light to my lair? You must die!
On second thought, let's not.